Hello and welcome to the Oomph Animation Masterclass. My name's Jack. I'm a designer here at Oomph, and we've been running webinars for the past 2 months or so. This webinar in particular is going to cover animations, what you can do with them, how you can manipulate them, how you can combine them with other Oomph features. So without any other delay, we'll get right started. We have a few things to cover, so hopefully you can take it all in, ask any questions as you need. My colleague Leanne is here to answer any questions you might have and to help you in that way. So please feel free to go ahead and ask. There'll also be a question time at the end where I can answer your questions directly and help you with specific problems. Okay. So the topics we're going to cover today, we're going to have a look into custom animations. So this is taking the default animations in Oomph and either combining them or editing them to create different desired effects. So in that we're going to do simultaneous animations, different types of animations happening at the same time, and we're also going to do completion animations, which is animations that happen one after another. We're also going to be looking at combining both object and layer animations together to create different types of masking effects. Once we're completed that, we're then going to go through some more advanced animation techniques. And what I've done for this, I've sort of put together a little project which combines a lot of these things into the same section. So we'll be looking at animating hotspots. We'll be adding animations to buttons, animating layers, not only page layers, but layers within slides and objects, combining animations and default transforms, and the way you can create your artwork to maximize different animation effects. And depending on how we go through all that, I'll also have some more sort of real-life examples to show you what else is possible. A lot of the time it's what can I do, but what should I do? So hopefully we'll get to look at those. So after today, I'm hoping that you'll be quite familiar, if you're not already, more familiar with custom animation files. We'll be able to do more advanced techniques with animations, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to be more confident in exploring what you've learned and applying it to your own projects that you're working on. Like always, you'll need something where you can create your documents. I'm going to be using InDesign. To test what you've created, you'll need either an iPad, which you can sideload content onto, or you can use the Oomph editor. Let's get started then. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is simultaneous animations. Like I said before, this is when you're applying multiple animations to the same file. So in this one, what you can see is happening is there's three things. We are having my little assistant, my little robot here is moving left to right. He's fading in and out, and he's also scaling up and down. So let's go behind the scenes and look how this is made, and then we'll have a look at the animation files and how they're applied. So quite simply, in my InDesign file here, I have my page, and all I have on my page is my object hotspot. And this is where we're going to apply our animations. And then, of course, I also have the content of my object, and it's just a little green robot. Nothing special applied to him. We're simply just exporting him into his Object1 folder. And I'll give you also a peek at what our folder structure looks like. So 20-simultaneous for this example, and like I've mentioned, we have our Object1 with our robot inside. We have our P1-1 with our page and object hotspot. So to create our simultaneous animations, all we need to do is tack on any animation name to our object hotspot. So in this example, I have Object1, and I'll just zoom in so you can see clearly. What I've done here is I have my Object1, so I've outlined that, and then I've put in a comma, and now I'm adding on any and all animations that I want. The only thing you need to do is separate them with an AND, which is a capital A and D. So you can see, as I mentioned, I have 3 animations going on here. I have a scale in first, and move in, and fade in. So that's all I need as far as my document goes. Now, what you will need, of course, is those animations. So in this example, I've used custom animations, but if you chose to use default Oomph animations, you won't even need these files. You're ready to go already. But if you do want to customize the way these animations look, then you will need your custom animation files. So you can see here I have 3 separate animation files. I have a fade in, I have a move in, and I have a scale in. You can tack on more, you can take away less. It's a really quick and easy way to experiment with animations and how they're going to look. And you don't have to have that confusion of trying to put in different animations in the same file. So I'll just quickly open these up and show you what they look like. They're much to be expected. They're almost the default animations. I've just slightly edited them. So this one is my fade in, duration of 1. I have a repeat and an auto reverse on this one, so this means that it is continually going to repeat over and over, and the auto reverse means that once it's reached its value, it reverses the other way. And I have from my beginning value, I have 0.65 as my alpha. So it starts out semi-transparent, and then it goes to 1, which is full opaqueness. I have my move in, which is what you'd expect. I'm moving in from plus 150 pixels to minus 150 pixels, so that's the right to the left. And I also have repeat, auto reverse, and linear. Linear, if you want to add it, just makes the movements constant as opposed to easing in or easing out, which is more kind of natural movement. But in this case, I want it to be quite precise and mathematical, so I've used linear here. And also my scale in, which is simply scaling in from 90% to 110%. So we'll look again what this looks like in my Oomph editor. So we can see it's moving left to right, it's scaling up and down, and it's fading in and out. And it creates quite a cool sort of rhythmic animation that you might want to have a sort of a flourish or something to enhance your content. The next example we're going to look at is completion animations. So I'll play this one again just so you can get the idea. But what this one is doing is it's first doing one animation, stopping, and then doing another. So in our previous one, it would do all at the same time and it will repeat. In this one, it does the first, and then it does the second, and repeats the second only. So let's go ahead and look how this is made. this again is going to be much the same as my previous page. I have my object on the page, so object 1, comma, scale up. Scale up is the only animation I'll need for this one, and it will be a custom animation. So my content for this object is slightly different. Just have a little orange robot this time. And that's all we need as far as the document goes. So just export all that. And we'll have a look in here. We have our little orange robot. And we have our P page with the object hotspot on it. And that object hotspot has the scale up animation, which is here. So the magic all happens in this file. Custom animations can be a little bit tricky. You sort of have to get the syntax just right, or else it won't know how to read it. And there are, I can show you the tool I use to get this just as I want it. I'm not a coder, originally from print, so this is in no way natural to me, but I can still use it. All I need to do is edit files and get a few things right. So it may look intimidating at first, but really all you need to do is take something existing and then amend onto it. So what I'll do is this is my completed file, but what I'll do is I'll grab one from without a completion and show you how I created it. So grab a scale up. So this is how my file would have looked like without a completion. So in this example, and this will all be on the wiki, so you can follow this step by step and have a look. But in essence, what we need to do is we need to add on another animation on the end of this one. So you'll see on every animation there'll be a completion value here, and this is where we're going to stick it. So in this one I had a fade in and out effect after it scaled up, so I'll go and grab a fade in as well. So I have two separate animations here, and I'm going to combine them together. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to grab this animation file, copy the contents, go back to my original without the completion. And what I need to do here is I'll need to delete these quotation marks, and I need to add an open square bracket, and we'll hit return, paste in our new animation that we copied, which is our fade in, and then add another square bracket. So to go over that again, I've taken this completion, there was quotation marks there, I've replaced that with an open square bracket, I've pasted in my fade in animation, and then I've put again another closed square bracket to close it off. And if I'm feeling unsure about this at all, I can copy the whole thing. We can go onto this website called JSON Lint, and we can paste it in and we can validate it. It says all my JSON is valid. Hooray! I don't need to debug anything, which is great. I can just take that, copy back in for pretty formatting, and we're done. All we need to do now is edit the values of what we copied in. So we might want this to be 2, might want this to match up, have 0 delay. Basically, you just want to go in there and make it just as you want. So again, we'll have a look at my result. I'll replay this again for you. So we have a scaling up robot, and once he's finished scaling up, he is fading in and out. So that one's a little bit harder to grab. It's not as easy as doing a simultaneous one where you can just tack animations on one by one and not worry about editing code as much. But it's still not too bad to do it, and you can create quite cool effects. I encourage you just to go in and try and have a play, and it's quite satisfying when you do create something and you get quite a cool result with your project. So we'll move on to the last example of this sort of warm-up before our big project. And this one is combining animations within a layer of an object and a object itself. So if I turn on debug in this, you can see more of what's happening. So as you can see here, my object 1 itself is simply just moving left to right. However, the content within it is moving up and down. So in essence, what we're doing is we're creating a mask for the artwork within the object, but we're also animating the object to create quite a cool effect of it having sort of more of a natural motion, I suppose, even though it's a robot with an extra long neck. So if I turn that off again, you can see we're now creating an animation effect that would have been quite difficult without combining these two things in this technique. It also is more optimal for the iPad. People have tried to do this before with more complex animation files and using layers to mask, but we know, of course, that adding additional layers to your section will start to decrease the performance of your projects. So let's have a peek at how this is made. So this one's slightly different to others, but much the same also. We have our object hotspot, object 1, and we have a custom animation on that, which is move left, right. So object 1, move left, right. And we just have a little pinkish bar at the bottom here, just so he doesn't look like he's floating in thin air. And then, of course, we have our artwork. Again, nothing special on this. We just simply want to export it to our Object 1 folder. So we'll take a look at our folder structure. So we have our P1-1 with our object hotspot on it that has an animating hotspot. We have Object 1. And in this, we're going to actually animate our S1-1. Some people get stuck in the mindset of only being able to animate a page layer like P1-1. You can actually animate any S1-1 type layer, so whether it be in a slide, full-page slideshow, a VRPS, an object, what have you, you can also animate this. So in this one, I have a simple up and down custom animation. In our animation file, we have these two here. And I'll just quickly go in and show you so you can see. Quite simple though, when you look at them. What I've done basically here is I've taken a move in from right animation and I've just customized it. So it's not beginning off the page, it's beginning on the page and moving exactly the same to the left and then to the right. And then my up and down, I've taken a move in from bottom and I've just edited it so it's only going up and down as far as I need it to. So in essence, quite an easy animation file, something you can take from defaults, and I've combined them in a way that can create quite a cool effect. So I hope that you've taken this all in and that you've learned something. I hope they're not going too far ahead or lagging too far behind. But that concludes our little warm-up section. And now we're going to dig straight into our bigger project, which sort of shows what we've looked at now and applying it to sort of a more realistic scenario. So there's quite a few things going on here, so I'll play this a couple times. I might even see if I can play it slow. So already we have an object that's moving right away onto the page, and it moves off. We have another object, which is a button that's calling us to enter, that's also animated onto the page. So we can when we click this enter button, we're also going to have some more animations happening. I suppose if you can, it's always a great idea to have an animation happen that's initiated by the user. We often find that people, if they interact with the screen and some animation happens, they feel like they have some sort of ownership over it, and they feel responsible, so they feel like they've done something cool, where in fact they haven't really done anything, and all the work is done by you. But they feel more attached to it, and they're a lot more engaged to your content. So you can see here I have this button, I can enter, and I have a few things going on. We have a whole layer animating in. We have our little window here scaling up, and we have our little robot man making a reappearance. So to show you the full sort of purpose of this page, what we can do here is we have these left and right buttons, and we can switch over to the next thing. So we're having our little icons animate in. We're having our little headings down here animate in, and we're also having our body copy fade into different copy. We also have a wave effect in the background with some custom animations. So we're going to dig into this. We're using quite a few different techniques to put this all together. So again, I encourage you to stop me if you have any questions. If something's not making sense, if you want me to explain something more, I can do that. There'll also be question time at the end as well. So what I tend to do when I'm creating things like this is I'll create a visual mock-up first of how I want this to sort of happen. So this is what you're seeing here. I just sort of laid it all out, not added any interactivity yet. I just want to have a backup of what I've created and how I envision this to look. So first step, probably the longest step, is the designing part, and then you need to go ahead and start adding the interactivity. So for the case of this project, I've actually split up this page into 3 pages just so you can see all what's going on. I have my P1-1, which is this bottom layer. I have my P1-2, which is my second layer here, and my P1-3, which is my third layer here. So just spread those across 3 different pages, exporting them to the one, just so we can see a little bit better. And then further on, we've just separated all our objects that we need to animate. So we'll go through this step by step and look at the first sort of things that are happening on the page. So if I do this really slow, see that our robot animates in. He does that automatically. There's no need for a button. He'll pause, and then he'll move out, and he'll reveal the enter button. So all this content is happening on our P1-1. There it goes, and he pulls in the enter button. So this part here, it's all happening on our P1-1. So we have our blue, just for our sky color, and we have two object hotspots here. We have our robot, and our robot is using a custom animation, which is essentially a move in and pause. I'll show you how I've created this one. It's a little bit different because we're using two completions. With completions, you can do as many completions as you want. So you don't have to limit yourself to an animation, and then after that animation, there's another one. You can have it as a continual daisy chain of animations. So in this one, I actually have 3. My first one tells the robot to start off the screen and then come to 0, 0, so his original hotspot placement. And then from there, he pauses. He only moves 1 pixel, but that takes 1.5 seconds. And so that's the pausing period. And then afterwards, he moves off the screen. We then have our enter button, which is doing the same thing but only half of it. So we have our enter hotspot that is underneath our robot hotspot. It's in the same place, it's just smaller, it's in the center. And for this one, we're using move in pause 2. So we have a look at that one. It's doing the same thing, but only just the first part. And we have a little delay on it, so it's lined up exactly to the time that the robot exits. So this one starts off the screen, and then it comes onto the screen. Fairly simple. I've just modified a move in from right default animation there. Then I have my hotspot. This is going to be a action hotspot. So all this is doing is being a button that's going to tell a few things what to do. So I actually didn't know this for a long time, but you can actually give a layer an action hotspot. So we are saying, the first thing we're saying is we want layer 2 to move up. So we're saying action, I'll zoom in, action, layer 2, so which in this case is my P1-2, so we're calling out this layer and we're telling it what to do. And we're saying layer 2, complete this animation, move up delay. And all this is a move up from bottom, but it has a slight delay on it. We then also have some more actions. These ones aren't so essential, but they just sort of help you get the idea of what's happening. So this second action tells the smaller robot to move in, and then we have another action that tells the window to scale up. So I'll show you what that looks like. So as I press enter, we can see our layer 2 is moving up. We should then see our window scale up. There it is. So that's from our action hotspot as well. calling this object to scale up. And then we'll also have our small robot object move in. There he is. So we're telling 3 things to animate at once, and it's all happening there with our custom animations. The thing to note about this, which you may have noticed, is my second layer starts off the page, which is different. How did I get that to happen, right? It should, in essence, be in its right place. But what I've done, this technique can be quite useful. So it should appear as you can see on the screen there, where it's taking up most of the screen, but it doesn't. And the way I've done this is I've put an animation on the end of this layer. So we got P1-2-stay down, and what I'm basically telling this layer to do is to stay at the bottom until I tell you otherwise. And I use the word animation loosely because it's not. I have added an animation to it, but it's not actually animating at all. So if I look at stay down, you can see here it's quite a simple animation. I have a duration of 0, so anything it does do, it'll do instantly. And I'm saying layer 2 go from 800 pixels down to 800 pixels down. So it's technically not moving anywhere. I'm just moving it out of the way, so I can see the layer behind it. And then when I add my custom animation, which is this enter button, I'm then telling that layer, okay, don't worry about that animation anymore. I want you to come up. So it's coming up when I hit the enter button like this. So that's quite a cool technique. You can also do the reverse. You can also have an action button that tells a layer, you can have it start in its original place, and you can actually tell the layer to move out of the way to reveal something on a layer beneath. This is quite a cool effect if you want to do a menu. For instance, you might have a menu that's always there on the bottom layer, and you get a second layer to move across to reveal your menu. Lots of different effects here, sort of an uncommon one, but very useful. So that's all for our P1-1. Next we have our P1-2. So there's a few more things going on here on this page. Some we've already had a look at. So of course we have our artwork, which is just our sand, our tree, and we have our little background for where our body copy is going to appear. And then we also have all of our objects. So the ones we've already looked at so far is our small robot object. And he's just there. And our window object here. The other ones that are on the page are my arrow buttons. So I have my arrow buttons as an object because I want each arrow button to do something different. And we'll cover that in a second. And I also have my titles in an object. I should say my headings. So that is these guys down here. All of those are just in a long strip object. You might notice also that I have these headings that are fading off when they go to the sides. So what I've also done there is I've just put an object on top. So if you see, if I gradient 1 and 2, they're simply just colored blocks that have a opacity to them. So they're not animating at all, but they're creating the illusion that my titles are sort of dropping off the page. And then finally I have my copy. IPS, I believe. No, that's just object 2. So the first thing I want to look at is this window object. This one is combining layer animations and objects and layer masks all in one. So we'll have a look at this. Quite a few interesting things are happening. So if I scroll down, I'll just find where I've created all this artwork. So as you can see, I have a few things going on in here. I have some layers, and I actually have some objects inside of my object. If you didn't know this before, you can do this. You can put objects inside objects inside objects. It'll all work, and it's quite a more optimized way of doing things instead of copious layers. So we'll look inside my exported files here. I have 3 layers inside. This first layer is just an object where my waves are animating. So I have my waves in the background there going across continually. My second page is covering up those waves, and it also has my hotspot for my icons in it. And my third one is simply on the top and acting as a mask. So let's go through these step by step. So as I said, my first one is my waves animating back and forth. And this is an example of how to create artwork and manipulate it in such a way that the user can't tell what's going on, and there's sort of an illusion going on. So this is my artwork here. These are my waves. And what I've done here is I've created the peaks and the troughs of these waves at an exact pixel dimension. So what I can do is I can move them across, and basically when it moves across to the trough of the wave, I can repeat it at that point. So all it's doing is moving across, snapping back instantly, moving across again, snapping back instantly, and moving across, and it creates the illusion, as you can see, that these waves are continually moving across. So I'll show you my animation file for that. It's called Move In, Write, Repeat. So as you can see, my artwork itself is only moving 74 pixels across. It looks like it's moving a lot more than that, but it's only moving that many pixels across. The trick is this part here. In my options, I have repeat. So once it's finished moving across, as I said, it snaps back and it moves back to its original position again. You can also do this for rotations. If you want a continual animating rotation, you can have an object that, if it is symmetrical, you can have it rotate 45 or 95 degrees and then simply repeat it, and then once you export it, it'll look like your object is rotating continuously. So that's our first layer. Again, our object called waves with a custom animation on top of that. Our second layer is just our little artwork here, which is our sand and water, which is covering up the majority of the layer beneath it. And we have our icons, which is in Object 1. Nothing special happening there at all, so I'm just going to skip past it. It's just there, ready for us to add actions to it. So I can show you in our Object 1, it's just a long strip of icons. And the trick with this is they're all visible except they're being masked off because they're out of the area of our window hotspot. And our third layer simply again is providing that mask that we want. So as our, I'll try and show you here. As the icons move across, they're going to be masked outside of the object. Once they go past the object, they won't be visible to the user. But this layer is providing this circular mask for us to help create that illusion. So I'll show you again in our window. We have a layer on top as a mask. So then, of course, we have these buttons which are causing animations to occur. You might have noticed that the top and the bottom animations are quite similar. That's because they are essentially using the same animation for both of them. So this will be unknown by the user, but there's actually five, or should I say four, there's 4 pages of these arrows. So as I click them, they're actually swapping out to different pages of an object. So if I show you here in my arrows object folder, there's actually 4 pages, and they all have different animations, action hotspots applied to them to cause different things to happen. So if we look at our first one, the one on the left is tinted out because we're already at the beginning, so we can only go right from here. And we have an action, and it's telling 3 objects to do 3 things with custom animations applied to it. So we first have our first action, and it's saying, okay, we want to do something with our headings object, and our headings object is simply the object with all our headings in it. So we're saying, okay, headings object, shift right. So as you can imagine, the object shifts right. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So we're basically saying go from 0 and move to the left 215 pixels, which is exactly the right amount we need to get to the next view. So as I go across, and it's also doing the same thing for our object 1, which is the one with our icons in it. Saying shift right again, so both of those objects have these animations, custom animations applied to it. And we're also going to the second page of this arrows object. So once we tap this button here, what happens is we go down to this next page, and this time we have both left and right arrows ready to use. And you can see on here, I essentially have the same thing. So all we're saying is everything that happened before happened again. So we're again shifting to the next position that we need. Except this time we also have one for the left, which is essentially the same thing again, but all those values are inverted. So we're saying shift left this time. So if you look in the animations file, you'll see I have a shift right and a shift left. And if I look at that in comparison, we can see it's doing the same thing, but this time in reverse. Instead of going to the left, we're now going to the right. So I basically just, if I go down the page, I repeat this for as many pages as I need. So I have 4. On the last page, I have only 1 for the left because we've reached the end of our icons. So this here is an example of how to control actions with animations. You can do this with things like if it was an in-page slideshow or just an object, you can just simply say go to page 2, go to page 3, but it's sometimes, especially in this case, it's nice to actually have an animation happen, something that's not quite as expected as usual. So as you can see, it creates this sort of custom effect, and in that, in saying that, it doesn't have to just move left or right. You can create anything. You can have it scaling up, you can have it fading down, rotating in. They can be all different for each different time. Yeah, you can basically go nuts. And I think that's more or less it. I won't go into every single detail. I also have this bottom copy area that doesn't really have much of an animation applied to it, just that it's going to the next page, fading into the next page. But yeah, combining quite a few different techniques to get different results. As you could imagine, you could use a similar thing in a totally different manner to create a totally different effect. So I encourage you, we will be sending these files out, so take it, rip it apart, and try and apply something to your own projects. We'll now go through some more different examples that I've put together and show you behind the scenes of how they're created. So our next example is this Christmas sort of themed section, and what is animating in them is these snowflakes. And if you are on the page long enough, you'll notice that, just realize how cheesy it's going to sound, but each snowflake is individual and unique. So it's sort of seems quite organic, but as we'll see, it's actually quite not. They're just hotspots animating down the page. We also have a little in-page slideshow to fill your time while you watch these snowflakes drop. So we'll have a look at these. This one surprisingly only has 4 key animation files, but the way we make it look unique is by adding what is called default transform, and in that way using the offset value. So if I show you here, I've got it ready, which is called default transforms. And in that we can use translation, rotate, and scale. In this one we're using the translation value, and what this means is we can basically grab something our objects and tell them where to start on the page, just regardless of where we set them in the InDesign file. And this becomes really helpful when you're building it, because it's hard to sort of design things when they're off the page. You never really know what you're going to get. So by using this effect and this technique, we can design things on the page, have a good idea of what it's going to look like, and then we can push them off the page to begin with. So I'm combining this offset feature with animations. So if we go ahead and we look in the InDesign file, we can see that it looks sort of insane. However, all I've done here, all these hotspots, and I'll just isolate, leave that one on. All these hotspots represent two different files. All I have here is a blurred snowflake and an unblurred snowflake. So if I look in my files, I have snowflake and I have snowflake blur. So all these hotspots that you're seeing are simply duplicates of two different files. And I've just resized them. It's fine. These are vector files, so I've just gone nuts and resized them all, and I've just placed them randomly on the page. The key is that I've placed them on the page so I can sort of get an idea of the consistency that I want the snowflakes to be in. What I've done then, I've actually started off with just the red ones, like this. I didn't want to really go ahead and edit countless ones. So what I've done, you can see I have this object. This one is just a snowflake one that isn't blurred. I have added my animation, which is essentially just telling it to move down, so it's similar to a move in from top. I've just customized it a little bit. And we have our offset, and this is saying, you know what, little snowflake, I want you to start totally off the page. And so I've just gone through each one, either applied, I have 4 different animations, so it's either going to be an A1 or an A2, a B1 or a B2, and I've applied 4 different offsets. So this one's -124, but some of them might be minus 2,000, some might be minus 3,000. And that is how I'm getting my effect, if we go back, for all these to come in continuously at different times. If I didn't do the offset thing, they would all just animate in, they'd all just follow my custom animation, animate in, and then repeat. So you'd get this awkward gap of no snowflakes falling down. So the way that I've staggered these offsets creates this continual flow of snowflakes that never looks the same twice. So it looks like we're doing something really custom, but we're not. And basically what I've decided is, well, I don't really think that's enough. So all I did was I copied these, pasted them, and I just rotated them. So all of a sudden I have double my snowflakes, but I only really worked on half of them. And that's what I've put on this layer. The rest are simply just my cloud layers and my little snowman. But we're just focusing on this on the snowflakes. So to show you what these look like, as I said, I have full A, A1 and A2, full B1 and B2. and you can see they're essentially the same thing. They all are from and to the same positions, 0 to 2100. The only difference is my delay, and you'll notice each has a slight delay on them. So I have my move in, and then simultaneously I also have a fade in and out. It's a little bit subtle, so you might not as notice it, but they do sort of fade in and out. So how I created this was I made my first one, and then I just copied that 4 times, and I've just had a staggered delay on each one. This example here, this uses an object with multiple pages, and on each page I have objects that will auto-animate. The thing about this, which is cool, is I'm controlling which page it goes to. So in essence, it feels like I'm initiating some sort of animation. So I'll pull up the folders for this as well. Okay, so you can see there's hotspots all over the page, and I have a navigation down here at the bottom. And what this navigation is going to do is it's going to, each time I click it, it's going to change which page I am of the navigation, and it's also going to change which page I am on each object. So before, in my other examples, I was just animating an object up, down, left, or right, but now I'm actually saying which page to go on, and each new page that I land on awaits a new animation. So this is a slightly different technique, but as we can see, it can create cool effects. So as I begin the demonstration, you can see they've all moved close together, but they still have the same animation applied. And as I continue on, I'm basically just going to new pages of each object. So now they're apart, and now simply they'll change. So this one's more relying on pages, page animations applied to layers within objects, and then also using action hotspots to dictate the position of each hotspot. And then my last example is this Jump for Joy page, and on the bottom left-hand side here we have a little menu button, and we can click this to get a little sub-contents and more buttons to appear, and they're basically rotating in. I'll see if I can do that slow so you can see. So they're rotating in slowly, and I can get them to go out. So a little bit different from your standard contents page or your standard nav bar. It has something that rotates in. And this one uses quite a cool effect. So if I go to my first page, we can just ignore these for now. I have my object here, which is my menu, and I have my menu action below, which basically tells my object to come in or to come out. How I've created this one is I've actually set it up upside down, and my action button is actually just telling it to rotate in. The key part about this is half of it is totally off the page. So when I begin, I'll just paste this on the page for you to see. When I begin my artwork, the hotspot is on the page, but my artwork is completely off the page. And then when I tap my action button to say rotate in 90 degrees, what will happen is, as you'd expect, my little icons animate right onto the page. And then once they're there, I'll have another button that tells it to animate off. So that's a different technique of having part of your action hotspot, your object totally off the page, out of view, and then animating it in on with some sort of animation effect for then the user to interact with it. So that basically concludes my animation masterclass. If you have any questions, now's the time. This sort of stuff is always case by case, so you might have some questions that you want answered. Also, if you're working on a project and you need some help, you can always email our support email, which is support@oomph.com, and we can always help you with this sort of thing there as well. We also have more webinars coming up. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to join us for some more. We are doing them every week, and they're always something different. Sometimes they're about production. We have a getting started one. Sometimes we'll do things more specific. We'll have tips on how to create content faster and whatnot. If you just go to this page, which is HQ/webinars, I believe, you'll see all the webinars we have lined up with all our different designers here. So if there's no questions, I'll just wrap it up here. Thank you for coming, and we'll hopefully see you next time.